Hi, everyone. This is a quick overview of the APA style for Mr. Herzog's composition class. In this video, I'll explain how you can use the AP style to cite in your papers. The first thing that we'll do is we'll go to the speed dial page here at homepage.penmanor.net. If you scroll down where you get to the high school library right here, click on that link. And then in the upper right-hand corner, there is a More button. If you click on um, basically just go over to the More button, you'll see down here the APA Chicago style link. That'll take you to the page where the information is for the APA style. A little bit of background on the APA style, just so you sort of understand what we're dealing with. The You've probably used and you've had to use for the last few years the MLA style for many of your citations, unless you've been asked to use a different style by a teacher. So there are three main styles, although there are more than that: the APA, the Chicago style, and the MLA style. The APA style focus is one that is partly more on research. It's by the American Psychological Association. It is the rules for it are published by them, and they have slightly different priorities as far as a discipline goes than what MLA does. MLA really is the citation style used for most of, if not all of, the humanities. However, the APA style will be used a lot of time for some of the different sciences or sociological types of studies that are done. So APA really prioritizes the date of a study when it was published. And so you're going to see in the in-text citations, year is going to be really important. Aside from that, and some other small changes, they're not really that different. The point of any style is so that you can use somebody else's work to prove your point and give credit to that original person so that their original idea is credited correctly and so that the reader knows where it came from. And so APA is really doing that exact same job as MLA would be doing. It's just doing it in a slightly different format. No matter what, in all three of the styles, you are really looking at kind of trying to figure out three different things. You want to figure out how to lay your page out. You want to figure out what the in-text rules are. Those are the things that, as we're reading the paper, what do we see that gives credit? And then you have to figure out what the works cited page looks like. If you lay all three of those areas out correctly, you'll be writing in the correct style. You'll be giving information the credit that it deserves in the way that it should be given, and you won't have any issues with plagiarism or authenticity issues. So for APA, we're going to look at those three areas. We're going to look at the page layout first. The page layout with APA, there's a link here that will take you to the Purdue OWL page. The Purdue OWL page is pretty useful overall. We can't link directly to the page with their new website, so you have to scroll down where it's under most popular resources, APA formatting and style guide. And we'll be back and forth to this website a couple times. General format is really what we're looking at here. This is just kind of setting up the basics. And if you scroll down, you'll see that the paper's divided up into major sections: a title page, an abstract, a main body, and references. So you'll need a title page in order to write in the APA style. You're not going to be asked to write an abstract. You don't always. A lot of time that will depend on your professor or teacher's expectations. Usually you only do an abstract when you're publishing. It is a summary of your paper so that someone who is doing research could really quickly look at your paper and say, oh, I want to use that, or decide not to. So those are the four major areas. You have to set up a title page, and we're going to see something called the running head in the title page, and I'll show you what that looks like right down here. So the title page setup is fairly straightforward. You can see right here we have the running head, and then the title of the page, the title of the paper, the page numbers over there. And again, that is different than MLA. MLA asks for your last name when up in the header, and it does not have a title page. You then lay out the information that you need to here, which includes the title and your name, university name. We'll scroll out a little bit. So that is an example of one title page. You just want yours to sort of match this formatting, and I'll scroll down a little bit more. Here's an example of an abstract, but then we'll get to, and we'll take a look at in just a moment, a sample paper. So there's a sample paper linked here, and I actually think the sample paper is really the best place to check your paper against, because then you see what it looks like, what a student paper looks like. And we can scroll down, we can open it up if we need to, but it gives explanations for why everything is the way that it is and where that it is. So this could be really helpful for you. You do see they have an author note. That's not often required either, or not always required, depending on, again, the expectations. So you're going to be looking at putting together a title page, but you do not need the author note. And you're going to be looking at laying out your first page just like this. Notice the title. Here's the running header. There's the title again. It looks redundant, but it's what's required. And then you've got the page number, and then your paper begins. And you can see that once you get going, it is broken into different sections. But again, for many of you, you won't need those different sections either. The next step, after you get the page laid out correctly, and you'll use the typical font that you would use. Times New Roman 12 is kind of recommended. It's still 1-inch margins, double spacing all throughout. So there's nothing unusual there. Once you do have that information laid out, the next thing you're going to need to look at are the in-text citations. What do those look like? In general, the in-text, and again, we're taking here, we're going to go under the AP Formatting Style Guide. You can see over here, in-text citations, the basics. So we scroll down with some of the basics of the in-text citations. The big thing is that you see the example. Just like in MLA, you notice that there's some kind of signal or a phrase that lets you know, hey, this is from an outside source. According to Jones, the big difference here is the date, which would not be an MLA. In parentheses, you put the year that the article was published, and Jones is the last name there. So according to Jones, and then 1998, the quote follows, and then in parentheses, very similar to MLA, except that they want the P dot to for the abbreviation for page. MLA doesn't require anything right in that spot. That's basically it. Otherwise, it really does look very similar to MLA. You can look through. There are more examples. Of course, you can go into exceptions and strange rules and things that are maybe a lot different. Sometimes, of course, you'll run into some kind of problem that doesn't match up with what's there. I do have a small chart that really simplifies things for you, just as far as in-text citations go. So if you have a good understanding of MLA, you can just make these changes. But the big thing is the dates are required. And notice the comma. MLA never wants commas in their in-text citations, but APA does ask for those to separate each element of the citation. So you'll see that right here and up there. The other thing is the abbreviation for page or a range of pages. So if you have a range of pages, rather than just putting P period 25 to 35, you put P period 25 to 35. And that gives you the range, and lets the reader know that it is a range of pages that you are citing. So if you were to do a summary of maybe 10 pages, this is what we would see in the index. Or if you do a paraphrase of a couple of pages, if you're taking a paraphrase from maybe one page that goes into the next page, and you're sort of putting that into your own words, you may have to put both pages there. The last thing, and it might come up, but perhaps not, the use of the ampersand. MLA has you write out the word "and" if you have two authors, Fox and Miller, comma 2014. Instead, in APA, you're going to use the ampersand to indicate that you have two authors, and that will connect their names. We'll jump back here So we looked at the page layout, we looked at the in-text citation, there's a chart there for you. Then really the last thing then is getting the references page together. Now notice it's not called the works cited page or the bibliography. So APA calls it the references page. And part of the reason for that is that in APA, there are times when you may not cite something directly. It might not be part of your works cited because it's not in your paper, but you may have referenced it anyway and you want to include it at the end of your paper. So they make this allowance that you can have extra sources that aren't actually cited in your paper. MLA does not do that. If you do that on an MLA paper, it looks like you're just kind of padding your works cited page. And it looks a little suspicious, like you're putting in works there that you didn't actually use. But in APA, it's okay because you may have referred to those works and read them, and they may have informed your ideas about the topic. So references page, I definitely recommend using Noodle Tools for this. It will save you a lot of aggravation and time. There are a lot of small rules that Noodle Tools will take care of for you. So I'm going to click onto this example here, sign into my Google account, and it will take me right to Noodle Tools. And again, this is my school Noodle Tools account. That is, each student has one. If you have trouble logging in or can't find it, let me know. So you can choose when you go to create your project, you can choose right here to switch it over to APA. And then you can make your project name, and then you can choose the style. You typically want to choose at least the junior level for your citations. You may need the advanced if you really get into some stuff that's kind of complicated, but usually the junior level is acceptable, and especially for what you'll be doing in this class. I'll show you a quick example here of just the APA. Here's one citation that's done this way, and you'll see, notice how the author's first name is abbreviated and the date appears right here at the top. There's also some capitalization things. APA only capitalizes the first word and proper nouns, whereas MLA capitalizes each major word of a title. It's one of the quick giveaways for a reader to be like, aside from the date, it's a quick giveaway for a reader to see that, oh, you're in the APA format, and they can recognize that very quickly. There are also other elements here, and although, again, very similar to what an MLA citation would look like, they're just moved around. That's why Noodle Tools is so helpful, is because you can go in here, type in the information once you've found what you need, and then you can printer export it to Google Docs, and then you have the page that you need in order to get your sources cited. And there are sometimes some questions about the sample paper, which I really do recommend taking a look at. That's probably the easiest way to figure out the format, is to look at the sample paper and make sure that yours looks like the sample paper. And sometimes we have had questions about long quotations. So in APA, for a long quotation, and I'll see if I can find it over here. Let me scroll out. Here we go. For long quotations, you're looking at anything that's 40 words or longer. In MLA, it goes with the number of lines. It's 3+ lines is a long quotation, but in APA, it's the number of words. So if you think you have a quote that's looking particularly long, might be over 40, then you may need to set it up to look like this. Again, it's very similar to what MLA's long quotations look like. It's got this extra indent. It's introduced by a colon. You don't see quotation marks around it. Instead, it's indented. Even the period is the position of the period, and the way the page number is indicated are pretty similar. So that is the very basics of citing in the APA. Again, if you're double checking your paper, what do you need to be worried about? Make sure that you have the page format all set up correctly. Make sure that you have used something to help guide you with the references page and double check those in-text citations, specifically making sure that you have the year there and that you have added that P dot abbreviation for any of the page numbers. If you do that, it makes it very clear that you're in APA, and you'll have another style that you'll be able to cite in if you need to for course requirements. If you do have questions about citations in any of the styles, please feel free to reach out. You can send me an email and I will try to give you as clear of an answer as I can. And if it's a pretty complicated problem, I can meet with you and we can sort of figure it out, or you can show me the sources that you have and we'll troubleshoot those. So, all right, thank you very much and good luck with the APA style.